Hi, this video is about how to create bar graphs, histograms, and how to do this on your calculator as well. Let's begin just by differentiating between a bar graph and a histogram to begin, and that basically implies the difference between discrete and continuous data. Looking at an example in the textbook, here we have student collected data of how many cars per minute pass their house. All right, so here, for example, this student counted that 20 cars passed in a minute, and he counted this twice. So this occurred twice because he was collecting this data over, I think it says in the problem, maybe 30 minutes. So two of the minutes in the 30 minutes, 20 cars passed. And another time, 21 cars passed in 1 minute, and this happened 5 times. So there's five 1 minute periods when 21 cars passed, and the data goes on and on. That data is discrete data, so it's important to note the difference between discrete and continuous. This is discrete because the number of cars that passes must be a whole number. It can only be 20 cars or 21 or 22. It can't be 20 and a half cars or 20.8 cars. So these are just whole numbers, and that data is not continuous, so it's discrete. When you present discrete data, you can present it in a bar graph like this. Notice these bars are not connected. That's important to note here, so I'm going to zoom in on that. The bars are not connected because it's discrete. If they're connected, it would imply that there's continuous data. So there's one bar, another bar, another bar. So again, 20 cars in 1 minute he saw that twice. 2 different minutes he saw that. And then 5 times he saw 21 cars pass in 1 minute, and so on and so on. That's a bar graph. It's for discrete data. Now let's look for another example that has continuous data. And this continuous data is going to be presented as a histogram. So in this one, it has the age of students, and it has in a class, I guess, or in a group of students, it has the age, or not students, this is age of people in some kind of population. And it shows, here it says 20 less than or equal to the age less than 25. So that means that here, when you're counting up a frequency, that means the total number, there's a total number of 4 people that are between the age of 20 and 25. But since this has an equal sign here, that means if you're age 20, you're included in this group. But here, there's no equal sign. So if you're age 25, you're not included in this group, you're included in this group. So if you look at from this to this, that shows you continuous data, because you can see 20 included goes up to 25 not included, but then you include 25 here. So you can just keep flowing through here onwards, and it includes every possible value, because this includes up to 24.99999, and then this includes 25, and then we keep going. So that's continuous, you can see that. And that makes sense for age, because age can be any age to any decimal place. That's continuous data. When you represent continuous data, it will be in the form of a histogram. And notice the histogram is just a little bit different than the bar graph, because here the bars are connected. And when they're connected, that implies continuous data. Let's look at this one again. Here the bars are not connected, so discrete data, and here the bars are connected, which is continuous data. But the height still shows how many times that occurred. So for example, the students between age 20 and 25, which really means from 20 included up to 24, and that is a count of whatever that was, 4, and then almost 15 students here between 25 and 30, and so on. So that's a histogram. Now, making a histogram is not so difficult on paper. Making it on a GDC is not so bad either, but kind of a few steps you should know. So here's question 1. I'll walk you through that one. Here we have time spent studying mathematics in minutes, and this is, I don't know, I'm assuming minutes per day maybe. So the number of students that study between 0 and 15 minutes. See here it's including 0, but here not including 15. So the number of students that are studied for 0 to 15 minutes is 21. And then here it begins at 15 and includes it. So if a student studied exactly 15 minutes, they would be counted here, not here. If a student studied 14.99999 minutes, they would be included here. So again, this is continuous, you can see, because it ends and begins with the same value. And then here's the count. So now how do you enter this on your calculator and make a histogram? Let me show you. I've already entered the list, but to enter a list, you go to Stat, and then Edit, number 1, and then you'll enter your list. So I've already entered it to make this quicker, but list 1 shows me, I'll explain that in a minute. List 2 shows me the frequency. So see 21, 32, 35, that should match this, the frequency. List 1 is this. Now this is a strange thing about this. This shows you again, minutes studying, and this can be any minutes between 0 and 14. But when you're making the histogram like this, any number between 0 and 15 will just stack up in that first thing. So it doesn't matter what that number is. This could be 12 minutes, 12 minutes, 12 minutes. It could be 12 minutes 21 times, or it could be 10 minutes 21 times. It'll still give you a stack of 21. So here, when you're entering your calculator, you can just enter in a value from somewhere between 0 and 15. So let's go back to that. Notice I've entered 10, because 10 is between 0 and 15. So I'm saying a student has studied for 10 minutes, and that has occurred 21 times. And then here I chose 20, I think, between 15 and 30. Students studied for 20 minutes, and that occurred 32 times. And then here I think I did 40 minutes, 35 times, and so on. So again, I'm just choosing a value within that little range, because that's all we need is to stack the bar. So once you've entered that list, now to make a histogram, you go to second, stat plot. You have to turn on your plot for statistics. So I'm going to go to number 1. I'm going to turn that one on. All right, now type. Usually we're used to making like a plot of points, but now we're going to go to the third one here, which is histogram. So one right there, histogram, enter on that one. Now it says X list. X list is those values. So these values, remember I chose the value somewhere in the middle, like here I chose 70 and here I chose 80. So here is list 1. Again, frequency, it needs to know what is the frequency of each of those values occurring. So that's where you go to your frequency list. And in my list, I had list 2 was my frequency list. So again, if I look at that, stat, edit, my list 2 had my frequency value. So I need to show list 2 as my frequency. So I'm going to go that again. Second, stat plot, number 1, and my frequency, I'm going to go down there. That has to be list 2. The way to change that to list 2 is to do second, stat, which is going to be list, and there it gives me all the lists. I'm going to go list 2 and select that one, and now that is list 2. So now it's going to give me a proper histogram, but it might not actually. So I'm going to hit graph and show you what happens. Okay, not very good. The reason is the window's not right. My histogram, I have to change my window to be proper for my histogram. So I'm going to go to window, and what is the minimum x value? It's 0. What's the maximum x value? 90. So I needed to go from 0 to 90. So let me go back to that. 0 to 90 here. And then the scale. The scale is where you put how big are these intervals. This one, each of these intervals is 15, 15, 15, 15. So I'm going to put an x scale of 15. It's going to know that every bar contains data within 15 like that, right? The y-min, when you look at the histogram, y begins at 0 and then it counts up to something. So what's our highest count here? 41. So I'm going to make my y max 45 so it can show us up that high. It's going to start at 0. It's going to go to a maximum of 45 because one of the bars is going to be that tall. And then I'm going to do graph. All right, there's my histogram. All right, so each of these here is based on my x scale. So I said 15, so this is 0 to 15, and then 15 to 30, and 30 to 45, and it has the count. So let's see if it matches the data. 21, 32, 35, 41, so it's going up, and then it goes down for the last two. It's going up, so this is the 41, and then it's going down, and the last one's only 11, and it's 11 here. So it's a proper looking histogram. So that's how it's done. Enjoy your assignment. Practice this skill on the calculator.